As countries decide who they'll be backing in the South Africa genocide suit against Israel, Namibia has rejected Germany's support for Israel in that genocidal intent case being adjudicated at the ICJ. Germany has offered support to Israel since the Hamas attack of 7th October last year. German Vice Chancellor Robert Habeck spoke candidly about his country's relationship with Israel as being special and flowing from historical responsibility after the Holocaust. Why has Namibia taken the stance? Let's explore it with Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, who's RiskRecon Director. Dr. Makhubela, good evening and welcome to the program. Thanks for your time. Namibian President Hage Geingob, in a statement after Israel's submission to the ICJ on Friday, expressed being deeply concerned that Germany had failed to draw lessons from what they regard as the first genocide of the 20th century, the murder of the Herero and Nama people between 1904 and 1908. Share with our viewers what that atrocity was about.
Imani, thank you very much for the invitation. You know, when the German made the statement that should the ICC decide to move to substantive argument on the issues between South Africa and Israel, it involved the past with respect to Namibia. That's why President Hage Geingob came up very strongly with the statement. It has to do with what historians actually often referred to as the forgotten genocide of the earlier 20th century, where the Nama and Herero people were lynched actually by the Germans during their occupation of Namibia from 1884 to 1915. The Germans actually have lately accepted that they committed genocide in Namibia. But they refused to come up with reparation. Instead, they put on the table about 1.1 billion euros that they said it should go to infrastructure development, but not addressing the concerned and relatives of those who were lynched, because it's still very fresh in the Namibian memory. And that's why the Namibian came very hard on this question.
And if you go back to the history, I mean, it's quite stunning if you insert it in the contemporary times. As per the United Nations, more than 80% of the Herero people and half of the total Nama population were killed. And as you say, a number of historians believe that this was the 20th century's first genocide. So what message is Germany sending with its stance on Israel?
Germany has some level of guilt with respect to the Israelis, what they did during the Holocaust. But we don't see the similar remorse when it comes to the Namibian genocide. You will recall, Amani, that there's been a serious issue about the actual nature of the German genocide in Namibia. You know, the military governor of German in Namibia at that time, Lothar von Trotha, he said they must exterminate all the Nama and Herero people. And as we are saying, 80% of the population was exterminated by the German in a very brutal manner, in the same way that Leopold did in the DRC, cutting people's limbs and so on. But the Germans have never come up with acceptable reparation as opposed to what they've done in Israel. Mercedes-Benz, another big company that really contributed during the Holocaust, they've come up with some level of compensation and return of artifacts that were taken from Jewish people. But you don't see the same type of remorse when it comes to Namibians. That's why the outrage that you are seeing coming from Namibian, and rightfully so. They can't prejudge the outcome of a case that is there now within the ICJ, and yet they have something to resolve with respect to Namibians.
Yeah, I mean, as we venture beyond, this moment in 2024 into the Namibia of 1915, where during the course of World War I, Germany lost, then Southwest Africa, which became administered by South Africa. So there's a deep history between that country and Germany. How is this likely to affect relations between the two countries now?
You know, given the statement of President Hage Geingob, I think it shows some level of anger, and I think that anger, it's even reflected in the Namibian society. There are still families in Namibia that are still challenging the Germans in terms of this 1.1 billion euros that goes to infrastructure, but it doesn't address the wounds of Namibians. And I think the latest German efforts to really try to show one-sided approach to their past and addressing their past and neglecting the Namibian issue, it's really going to create a problem for the relations moving forward, I think. I think you may have seen the statement that you have seen, Imani. President Geingob is outraged. And he's normally a very calm person. I mean, I've known President Geingob for years when we were still in exile. But he's a very calm person. But we see that kind of statement put on record, it tells you the level of outrage within the community in terms of the German failure to address the atrocities of their past in Namibia.